Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as IvyWinter. Thank you for joining me for another Disney video. Today I wanted to talk about something a little fun, I wanted to think about when it comes to just how immersive things are becoming with theme parks and rides in particular. I want to talk a little bit about Rise of the Resistance, a little bit about our folks over at Universal with Harry Potter. I know, weird, right? And about some other places where very immersive experiences are happening and what that could really mean for Disney's future. What I think would be really cool to see as the parks evolve in coming years. So having been able to ride Rise of the Resistance, my experience has really got me thinking, and I have only been able to ride the ride once. Admittedly, it was the weekend that it opened, and of course obsessively have watched ride-throughs on YouTube ever since, because it has just been one of the most mind-blowing experiences I've ever had at a theme park. If you have not yet been on Rise of the Resistance, I would probably avoid going through the rest of this video. I am going to talk a bit about details, and yes, I know it's been open for a while and maybe we're at the spoilers limit or whatever you want to call it, but I like to be nice for people who haven't experienced things yet. If you haven't ridden it, if you're still trying to keep yourself in the dark about it, then this video might not be for you because I'm about to go into some of the detail. But in general, the experience that I had got me thinking about the greater whole of like, how can we make theme park rides and theme park experiences more immersive? I think that there is definitely a want for this. The idea of having an immersive experience anywhere is not new, right? There are cosplayers who immerse themselves into the storyline of the characters that they are playing as. There is LARPing, which is live action role playing, that has been going on for decades, where people take on roles and actually live out like an RPG in person. People have been organizing LARPing events on their own forever. You even have things like Renaissance fairs where people go and get dressed up and get into character. It's not a must to go enjoy a Renaissance fair. They don't say you have to be a character, but a lot of people like to do it. I think there is that love and inclination to want to be a part of something that you are super diehard for, right? I think we all have something that we're super geeky about that we would love to be involved. I mean, look at people who do Civil War reenactments, right? Those people are really into the history, and they love the idea of role-playing that. And that obviously expands to things like Star Wars, like Harry Potter. You see that when people go to places like Comic-Con and are fully dressed up in cosplay and sometimes really getting into character. Like, that's not new. The geeky side of all of that is not new. And being really into those specific... Thanks, Tree. And being really into those specific franchises in that sort of way is not a new concept. It's just that now we're starting to see things unfold in a more mainstream sort of way. Now I feel like the idea of being that immersed is getting more mainstream love. I feel like something like LARPing was long made fun of, right? I feel like it was funny to watch videos of people doing that on YouTube and laugh and be like, this is weird. There was even a documentary made about LARPing called Dark On. It came out in 2006. I remember watching it back in the day, probably within a year or so of it coming out. And it followed a group of people who actually, did this regularly. It could be argued whether it actually painted them in a decent light or not. But I think a lot of people turned to that documentary and pointed to it for a laugh. And it's funny now that it's becoming such a mainstream idea to be so immersed in something that you love. I'm sure all those LARPers are like, look who's laughing now. But look at Harry Potter Land, or the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Sorry, I always say Harry Potter Land. It's not the official title. I apologize. It's like, I don't know, calling Hollywood Studios Hollywood Land. I know. And I feel like that was a step in that direction, right? We've always had awesome thematic lands that have come out of theme parks, especially Disney. Disney is lauded for that. But I think Harry Potter was the first instance where people felt really in some sort of pop culture experience, and felt like they were really in the locations that they had seen in the movies or read in the books. And all around them were people in character. You know, their team members are part of the story and part of the world, and act like it. They act like they are wizards in this world, even when they are just engaging in a store, or, you know, loading you on a ride. It is an all-immersive experience that makes you feel like you've stepped a bit out of the rest of Universal and gone into this other world. And they do a really good job of making it almost feel like it's that little bubble. And people started to react to this in a really positive way. Now, from the beginning, there was always the people who came dressed up and ready to go because, again, there's diehard Harry Potter fans. That was a given that would happen. But it's the perfect franchise to do an immersive land on because you already have diehards who are willing to do that. And then you see other people starting to follow suit, and not so much just the diehard fans dressing up, but you've got other people buying the wands, buying the robes, wearing them around, acting as if they're in character, acting as if that they are students of Hogwarts, getting into it while they're there because they can. It gives the atmosphere that this is the world that you're in. You're in the world. You're in Diagon Alley, and you can act like you're in Diagon Alley, and nobody's gonna bat an eye at you, and everyone else who's working here is acting the same way, and it's a whole bunch of people who love something, so you're not really gonna be judged, and you have freedom. They give you the freedom to do that, and they give you the freedom not to. You just want to be a tourist, you know, going to Universal. That's fine. But I think it was a sort of a comfort that you got when you were there, that they encouraged the cosplaying and the role-playing and the immersiveness just by way of how the whole land is built out, and interactivity of the wands and all of that. That said, I feel like Rise of the Resistance is that sort of in-depth atmosphere and immersion, but in a attraction. Now, that's not to say Galaxy's Edge isn't immersive in and of itself. I think that it is, and again, this is another die-hard fan franchise where people already have the outfits, you know they did, and were showing up the first weekend dressed up. And then they're selling Jedi clothing, Sith clothing, lightsabers, anything that you could need to kind of get into character and get immerse even further into whatever story you want to have in Galaxy's Edge. And then you take all of that and the die-hard love of that franchise and you pour the immersion into a ride that does not feel like a ride. And ride is I mean, attraction is the better word, and even still, attraction, I don't even like to use for this. I like to say experience. The queue itself has backstory. If you read the book, you get more of it, but they are these ancient caves, and the rebellion does use them when they choose Black Spire outposts to hide out from the First Order. And you get the story of why you're there, and what your role is in this attraction or experience. You're not just someone there to passively experience something. You are a key part of it. And this isn't new, right? Look at Dinosaur. You were a key part of that story as well, right? You're being sent by the scientists to go get that dino. But this attraction makes you feel even more important than that. And you go through your beginning sequence with the coolest holographic effect ever, that just so neat. And you get loaded onto a transportation ship, and that in itself is its own experience, right? So you're in it. Like, by the time that you get through, you can't see the rest of Galaxy's Edge, you can't see the rest of Hollywood Studios. You kind of forget that that's where you are, and now you're being loaded onto this transportation ship. And that isn't even the ride yet. You are just getting to the actually, you're in the experience, right? Let's be honest. The experience itself is 15 minutes, right? The ride itself might be shorter than that, but the whole experience is 15 minutes. And so now you're in it, and you're getting the full story of what's happening all around you. You're getting the story of being captured by the First Order. They are going to interrogate you about where the Resistance is, and then that isn't even in the ride yet. You are still have another queue, to be fair, but you're not even thinking that you have another queue because you've just seen like a butt ton of stormtroopers that look amazing, and you are being just glared down by Imperials and just feeling like you're in this other space. They take the weight and they turn it into something immersive and interactive and scary. I mean, those cast members are really good at playing their roles. Let's just say that. And then you get put into your cell, which is how they're actually separating out each group of people for ride vehicles. But who cares? You're not thinking about the process of how they're trying to get you on the ride. You feel like you're being held in a cell by Kylo Ren and General Hux. And you have that cool moment where the doorway is broken open and you get rushed onto the ride vehicle, and now you need to escape. And then the ride begins. But everything leading up to it is so important in making Rise of the Resistance as good as it is. I think that sort of feel of you having your own story is something that needs to expand further into Galaxy's Edge and expand further into theme parks. It would be neat to actually feel like you do have a role when you go to these places. A role that you can pick. It doesn't have to be necessarily assigned to you, but to choose a side, light or dark, and then to feel like you can complete quests or missions or get some special experiences that maybe one path gets you certain ones, one path gets you another, and you don't always have the same experience every time. Now this is a little bit into the Star Wars hotel that is being built. I think a big question mark on where that's at right now with everything going on with coronavirus and all of that. But I think that is the next step, except they're doing it in a very enclosed space. There's a really neat theme park that is in Utah. My brother actually told me about this place about a year or two ago called Evermore, which does kind of what I'm saying. You go and you actually are a character in this world, and you get quests and you get locations you have to go to and puzzles you have to solve, and everyone who works there is in on this story, and it's a robust story, and you finish a storyline about you. This is about you and your achievements and what you do, what you choose to do. You talk to people to get information. They might say like, you need to find out where X is, and then you go into an inn and you have to interrogate people who work there and try to like schmooze information out of them. And then again, you go to these different locales where you solve puzzles and you go through certain different experiences to complete your quest. And now I've heard mixed things about the experience. Definitely needs some fine tuning and some tweaking, but they've been doing this for a while, and it sounds like it gets better and better as they keep going along with it. And granted, there are a lot less people going there, right? This isn't a Disney, so when you go, it's not like you're surrounded by a bunch of people in shorts and Mickey ears. You have a little bit more of a personalized experience because there's not as many guests there. But it's awesome. It's basically a video game RPG in real life. I would love to go one day. I think that would be super fun. But I do think that there's an ability to take that idea and bring that over to Star Wars and Harry Potter and even Marvel, you know, over in California. I think it could go that deep. I think that people are willing to ignore kind of the space around them once they're in their own story. I don't feel like I would be that turned off by knowing there's other guests around me that are just doing their own thing and riding rides and that's it. I think that there is the ability to have those sorts of very personalized experiences. It would take a few cast members, and it would take, you know, them learning backstories, knowing what to say, and knowing quest lines, and it would be a lot of work and a lot of writing, and definitely not something that would be easy to implement overnight. But how neat would it be if you could go into the cantina and you have to find a seedy, trader sitting at one of the tables and slide on up in there and talk to them and try to get information out of them. How cool would it be to build your lightsaber, and then as you're leaving, you get pulled over by somebody who comments about it and wants to pull you in on a quest and like calls you a Jedi or whatever. I just think that there could be something really cool. Maybe it's an extra paid experience. I know how we all feel about extra paid experiences, but you know, maybe it could be something that they could monetize in that way. I just think that would be an incredibly neat next level idea, and I think that we're seeing some immersion being built and being made in our experiences that's leading in that way, and maybe it's all just a test. Maybe we'll get there eventually. Anyway, those are just my thoughts in general about how I really think that like immersive theme park experiences need to be a thing. I'm gonna put the link to the Evermore Park down below. It's really neat, you should check it out. There's a lot of cool YouTube videos as well of people going through it and all of that. And I would love to know in the comments below, what land would you really want an immersive RPG experience in? Is it Galaxy's Edge expanding to that? Is it Marvel? Is there a whole other land that you would like to be built that you want to be immersed in? Like a Disney franchise that you think would be really cool to role play in? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, then like it. If you like me, you should subscribe. I make videos every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great rest of the day. Bye.